Hello, everybody. How are you? It's good to see everyone. It's Corona time. It's Corona time. Let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. How's everything? How's your job been treating you? I know from that some of my friends have actually been fired these days. It's pretty crazy. I think high-tech companies should be able to work remotely, but a lot of them are using this type of the corona fever stuff to let go of people they either wanted to get rid of or to use it as an excuse to get rid of people to save some money. Anyway, what is it? Is it day 15 or 16 that we're all stuck at home? I believe we're all going to be stuck at home for a few more weeks at least. Oh God, are we getting spammed now? Jesus. Let's see. Can I block that user? Perfect. Okay. Anyway, so what I thought is, it's as part of my daily routine. Maybe if you're eating lunch right now, if you're in Israel like I am, we can try to write the Art of Unit Testing book together. So I only have 30 minutes before I have to go and prepare lunch for my kids. But if you're interested, I'm making all of my unit testing and TDD courses free for everyone who is interested, because we're all stuck at home. So might as well use this opportunity. Just Google Osher Online Training and you should find this stuff. Anyway, yesterday I was working on this part of the book, which is chapter 4, which is all about mock objects. And mock objects are interesting, as we know. And I kind of finished here. And if anyone has any questions about the stuff that I am doing, or you want to ask anything about unit testing or TDD, now is the time. I've shown here 2 possible ways to accomplish the same task, but if you're working with a different language such as Java or C#, you can use one of the isolation frameworks available in those languages. By the way, if you want to get the source code here, you can go to... where's my GitHub? Here. Okay, question. How come you decided to write a book about TDD in JavaScript? Any reason you picked JavaScript specifically? Well, the popularity played about 95% of that decision. Also, I wanted to learn JavaScript in such a deep way that, and the best way to learn something is to teach it, so that's the second reason. And third, I wanted to learn a bit more about functional programming, and JavaScript enables that too, which means that this book is going to be very different from the other ones. It's actually going to include examples from both functional and object-oriented. And I think it's just going to have more people that are interested in reading it if it's going to be in JavaScript. Bigger audience is definitely part of it. Anyway, that's kind of the idea. Any other questions? Feel free to ask. Meanwhile, I'm just going to continue. Okay, so I am currently in chapter 4 and I talk about these types of things. Let's see. Okay, let's see how that works. Oh, make it body. Here, like this. Okay, so the next sections are talking about 1 mock per test, and then fake chains. And again, I have a dilemma here. Do I actually want to do the fake chain stuff or anything like that? In the previous book, it made sense to talk about this. Let's see. Let's start with this one. One mock per test. In a test where you test only one thing, which is how I recommend you write tests, you'd want to have no more than one mock object. All other fake objects will act as stubs. Having more than one mock per test. By the way, let me know if the resolution is bad, if the sound is wrong, if the music is annoying, let me know. All other fake objects will act as stubs. Having more than one mock per test usually means you're testing more than one thing, and this can lead to complicated brittle tests. Okay. If you follow this guideline, when you get to more complicated tests, you can always ask yourself, which one is my mock object? Once you've identified it, well, you can, oh, this music is annoying. You can detect mock objects by their variable naming conventions. If you find, where are we? If you do find assertions against fakes that are clearly used as stubs, be wary. It's the mark of overspecification. Overspecification is the act of specifying too many things that should happen that your test shouldn't care about. For example, that stubs were called. Yep, I still agree with this assumption. These extra specifications can make your test fail for all the wrong reasons. You change your production code to work differently or more efficiently. But even though the end result of your code, the exit point, is still good, your test will start screaming at you. I failed. You told me this method will be called and it wasn't. Wah. Is that too childish? I'm not sure. Then you'll have to constantly change your test. Well, yeah, I think it's a bit too childish. Then you'll have to constantly change your test to suit the internal implementation of your code, and then you'll eventually get tired of doing that and ask yourself, why am I doing this again? And then you'll start to delete those tests. And then, game over. Specify only one of the three end results of a unit of work, or you'll end up in hell. Many kittens will die, and angels will fall from the sky. I warned you. Test each exit point separately. Or you'll end up in hell, many kids will die, and angels will fall from the sky. I warned you. I think that's reasonable, right? I think that's a stark warning. Next, we'll deal with a more complex scenario using a stub to return a fake that will be used by the application. Stubs that produce mocks or other stubs. I didn't actually create an example for this, but I'm wondering if I should. Well, I think I actually did. Let's see. Where's my WebStorm? כן, אני בדיוק בלייבסטרים, משהו חשוב חמוד. אוקיי, אתה רוצה להגיד שלום? אוקיי. Let's see. I was talking about... Where's my example logger here? Let's see, is it this example here? We have a password verifier. You know what? I'm not sure this subject is even important anymore. I'm not sure. I'm still looking for the right example, because I think that was maybe that. Let's see. What would be a good example? Because in the previous book, in the previous edition, I was using this example. One of the most common scamming techniques online these days follows a simple path. A fake email is sent to a massive number of recipients. This is weird. Why did I write this? The fake email is from a fake bank or online service claiming that the potential customer needs to have a balance checked or to change some account details on the online site. All the links in the email point to a fake site. Okay, I think that's why. It looks exactly like the real thing, but its only purpose is to collect data for innocent customers. In essence, you have a fake email that brings you a fake website. This simple chain of lies is known as a phishing attack, and it's more lucrative than you'd imagine. Why does this chain of lies matter to you? Sometimes you want to have a fake object return another fake component, producing your own little chain of stubs, ending with a mock object deep in the bowels of the system, so that you can end up collecting some data during your test. You can create a stub that leads to a mock object that records data. The design of many systems under test allows for complex object chains to be created. It's not uncommon to find code like this. Let's see, what code do I have here? Get service factory and factory get service. Or global utils configuration, DB configuration connection string. Suppose you wanted to replace the connection string with one of your own during a test. You could set up a configuration property of the global util object to be a stub object. Then you could do whether it might not be better to refactor your code to do something like this. Let's see. Get connection string. And here I show the extract and override function. I'm wondering if that makes sense here. You could then override the virtual method as described in chapter 3. This can make the code easier to read, and it doesn't require adding new interfaces. Another good way to avoid call chains is to create special wrapper classes around the API that simplify using and testing it. It's called adapt parameter in that book. Okay. Handwritten mocks and stubs have benefits, but they also have their share of problems. Okay, so now I have to come up with a coding example. That would force me to write a stub that returns a mock object. Let's see. So what if I go here and I'll create a new class. Let's then make a folder. We'll call it 07 fake chains. Oops, that's not what I meant. We'll make it a new directory. 07 fake chains. And in here, I want to create a file. We'll call it complex. What would be a good example, and you can feel free to write in chat, of something that returns something that might return something, right? It's not a great design technique, especially, but in object-oriented, it's quite common. So I'm wondering what would be a good name for that, or a good use case. We could have something that returns a logger, maybe. Oh yeah, you know what? Global config .js, and we'll do const get config equals that's going to be like almost like a singleton. Let's return an object that has a logger, which is our, where are we going to add that logger? Which logger should we use? Where my logger at? Oh, it's password verifier. Let's do a simple logger here. I'm gonna make it a JS file just to simplify things. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me in the chat. Okay, so we have a global config. And I'm going to make that logger new real simple logger. And we'll need to export this. Module exports simple logger. Okay. Come on. Get config, blah, 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 blah. Oh, return. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so this would be the example of the config. Const logger equals new simple logger. I'm just giving the some of the worst design advice here. Come on, where am I? There we are. Sorry. I'm using the Vim shortcuts to write code here. Okay, so we have logger, we have blah, blah, blah here. Okay, so in this case, I'm specifically making an object that returns an object. So what would a test like this look like? I'm going to make a new file. And we'll call it global. Actually, we need something that uses it, right? So let's take an example from one of the verifiers. And my guess is we're going to end up with more examples, but right now I'll make an object-oriented example. So we'll call it verifier.js, and we'll paste everything here. And we'll do a const config equals require. Oh, I forgot to export the config, right? Module exports is get config. Require global config. Okay, I think that's fair. So now we might say, instead of having the logger like this, we might have, this logger equals this. There we are. Okay, so now we have something that returns something. So now the problem becomes, how do you fake that stuff here to return that other stuff? Well, we can say verifier spec.js, and we can say, like a describe, verifier with config dependency, because that's the demo. And we have Wallaby already running and give me an error, so I can go ahead and say test. What would be a good test? Yeah, of course. Verify when passes calls the logger with output. Okay. So now, technically, what I want to say is, if I go back to the verifier, I have to expose it. I already exposed password verifier, so I can say const verifier equals new password verifier. Which one? Which one should I choose here? None of them are good. I do export password verify here, so const password verifier equals require verifier. There we are. And we'll just give it empty rules. And the reason I'm starting with the object-oriented is because, again, I feel comfortable with this, and later what I'm going to do is I'm going to show more functional ways of doing the same thing. Const verifier equals blah, 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 blah. How do we inject a fake logger here? That's our dilemma, right? How do we assert it was called? Because technically what I'd like to do is I'd like to go into the verifier of putting that stuff in the constructor as a parameter. We have the option of putting it in the verify function and then doing currying. We have the option of modular abstraction, where we can depend on the module, but not directly. So we have a bunch of stuff that we can do. So let's take the simplest example and say get config fn. Like this. So now I have to provide that get config in the test. And here I can say something like fake config fn and I'll say const fake config fn equals, you know, it takes nothing, but it returns an object that has a log, and that log again is an object that has, what did we say here? It has an info function, which is a function that takes a text, right? Actually, I'll just do maybe, yeah, it's just gonna be a, can I just do this? A function that takes text. Let info written and info written equals text. Can I do that? Do I have to do it as a function? Something about the syntax doesn't make sense right now. I think I need to do it like this, maybe. Let's see. Function that takes a text. What am I missing here? Const config is a function that takes this and returns an object. This. No? Yeah. So we have, let's turn this into an arrow function. Okay, so now it's looks a bit complicated, which it is, which is part of the, well, not fun, but the opposite of fun when we're dealing with fake chains and stuff like that. But, and again, this is like the beginning. This is maybe a test that could possibly be written, but there are better ways to write this type of test. We can say info written. That's a variable that I'm saving, and then I'm creating a fake config function, and that returns an object, and that object has a function called log. Oh, sorry. Fake config function returns an object that has a property called log, which is an object that has a function. So what does that give us? If the music is annoying, let me know in the chat. So now technically we can say we've already injected, right? Then we'll say verifier dot verify anything. Ooh. And I'm already getting an error here. Let's see, if I go to verify, I should be getting an error right here. This rules. Oh, that's right. I forgot to add. This dot rules equals rules. Rules. Okay. So we have verify.verify anything. Now we actually have to assert something. So what would we do here? We can basically say expect info written to be string matching, to be passed. Does that work? So that would be the first example. And now, let's see, where do we end up? Verify it. So this would be a very, very generic example. This test takes a long time. We actually want to write it better. Unfortunately, for all of us, I have to go make lunch for my kids. So, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna return in about 1 hour. And that's basically it. So, I'll see you all soon. Thank you for joining. May the force be with you, always. Appreciate you. Stay safe in Corona time.